Hey yo, welcome everybody to another Linux something, XeroLinux something. This time around, boy do I have a surprise for you. Today is a collab with someone most of you know, crazy person some of you call, but I call him one of the biggest funniest people I've ever watched on YouTube. I enjoy his shenanigans. Sometimes he starts a stream calling it Linux, and then it ends up being Windows. Sometimes he says it's Windows, and then there's Linux in the middle. We never know what his live streams have in store. So I'm talking about the one, the only Chris Titus Tech. Let's go, baby!
Well, thanks
Yo
for
yo
that
yo,
intro, man.
Chrissy.
It's always good to talk to you, man.
It's always good. The best part of it is we're the same generation. We can talk about this stuff that we both know. So
Yep, I love it. I'm looking forward to this, man. Whether
recently,
it's Windows, Linux, I'm down.
recently I posted something on Mastodon saying I wish I can click a button, go back to the 80s and 90s where we were smart because installing
Yep.
Windows was not a click of a button. It was using
It's
fdisk.
weird. It's like yo-yoing right now. It's kind of funny. I think the general consensus among the whole population, even Windows users say this, it's easier to install Linux today than it is Windows, which is pretty hilarious.
Yeah, and installing Windows back in the day involved the same thing, something similar to Arch Linux today.
Oh yeah,
It's
yeah. I mean, to do it with local accounts at least. And honestly, if you don't, you're punished if you're just a normie doing just a standard install. I did one the other day where I was installing Windows 11, and it took almost 2 hours because I had the ISO was out of date by probably about an hour, and it literally, or it was out of date by about a week, and it literally updated the entire ISO during the install. So it installed the entire OS, and then before it could even boot in during the OOBE, it went ahead and did another giant update that took another like 30 minutes to an hour because it re-downloaded everything. It was insane. But I was like,
yeah,
all right, you do you,
well,
Microsoft.
exactly. Like somebody asked you in the chat was how many times would you install your DWM setup during the time that it took Windows to finish to get you to the desktop?
Yeah, it
That
was
was
something like
interesting.
I did the calculations. It was something like 60 or 70 times. It was ridiculous.
It
But
sure was. My God, where was Windows and where is Windows today? It's a complete different uh, animal today.
oh, for
But
sure.
most people are here to listen to Linux stuff on my channel,
Hmm.
so we're gonna talk about your Linutil. And when I saw you working on it, surprised me because it was the time where I had just finished working on my version, which also uses Rust on the front end and Bash scripts on the back end. I was like,
Hmm.
we people from the same generation think the same way. We have the same ideas.
Well, it's
So
kind of funny because I'm not much of a Rust developer by any means. I was just doing a live stream, and how that all came to be from like the front end of Linutil was I just asked Chad. I was like, "What do you want this written in?" At the time, I was going to do Golang, um, and just use Charm Bracelets gum, which most people use for a lot of fancy menus to kind of pretty up the menu. And then they were like, "Well, let's write it in Rust." And I was like, "Okay." So then we grabbed a bunch of libraries, and I'm not real familiar with Rust. Like I'm no Rust developer by any means, but we had enough collaboration and us other stuff, just the power of open source, being able to kind of make our own interface with it, and it ended up being very, very good. And also, after the build happens, I will say like cargo is a little bit cumbersome, and it does take a bit for compilation. But the actual binary that people are using, man, it's small and it's fast,
Yeah.
and it works really well. It looks really good. Like, you look at the counterparts in other places where they set up menus doing whiptail, or even like GUI components like Zenity through Bash scripts, and you'll notice that this version of Linutil, I feel like, looks better than both those by a large margin, compared to what most traditional Linux projects use. Probably most famous one people would be able to relate to is like Network Manager's terminal user interface, the NMTUI.
Yeah, I thought the same thing. My utility altogether uses around 80 kilobytes because
Hmm.
it's just a bunch of bash scripts on the back end. Just the main menu is in Rust. I use the Rust front end to call back to mainly to the various tools that are
Hmm.
called, like the AUR helper. In the front end, I told it to detect what AUR helper is installed and use that instead of hard coding it to Paru or Yay.
Hmm.
But on XeroLinux now, I will have in December a bit on the wiki a warning not to say to use the to use the AUR directly. Use the included chaotic AUR because right now with everything that the AUR is going through, the DDoS attacks, it's causing a lot of headaches, and a lot of people have moved away
What
from
is the
Arch.
current state of the AURs now? Like, I've noticed earlier this week actually, AUR had an outage, and I was like, what's going on exactly with that? Because I started almost removing all packages from the AUR because I've had so many failed updates when I just do like a SYU, and I was like, it just seems like a perpetual problem the last month or two with using anything from the AUR. So I'm like, okay, let's move everything to the chaotic AUR for the most part, and then I'll
Yeah.
just use either Cargo or whatever language I'm installing directly from to manage it, or just build from source direct without using the AUR scripts.
Same like me. I don't have any AUR packages on my system. I
Mhm.
either use the chaotic AUR, but you have to remember that the chaotic AUR relies on the AUR to build their packages. So if the AUR is down, you have to wait for it to come back up for them to be able to compile the packages. But
Mhm.
that being said, I use either Flatpaks or I install from source. And I don't have any issue using Flatpaks, unlike many other people who complain about Flatpaks. There's nothing wrong with them. I use
Mm-mm.
OBS from FlatHub because it's the only official non-Ubuntu package. So why
Yeah,
am
I've also real heavy on Flatpak, specifically on like my Steam Deck. Steam Deck's pretty much Flatpak only. You can also do some kind. I actually kind of jimmied up a install of Nix package manager as well, just so I could install a couple other packages that weren't necessarily on FlatHub. But for the most part, yeah, I don't have any problems with that. I really do like that style of install because it's almost impossible to break when you're doing it through those
yeah,
containers.
like and now I wanted to tell you about something because I never saw you noticing it. Bazaar, look it up. Bazaar is the very first and only FlatHub GUI package manager. Bazaar.
Really?
It was created for, I think, Universal Blue project, but then it
Yeah,
became it's available on the on FlatHub. You install it from FlatHub to manage FlatHub packages, Flatpaks.
okay. That's
It's a
cool.
it's amazing. I'm using it because I use a lot of Flatpaks. I have 198 Flatpaks on my system.
Whoa. All right.
Yeah, update is not beautiful whenever there's a mass update, especially on my 16 meg connection. It takes around an hour or two to update those packages, but still.
But I
By the
mean,
way,
if it's reliable at the end of the day, that's all that matters.
yeah, that's exactly what I care about. I care about reliability. I don't care about slowness. But from what I heard, FlatHub is slowly migrating to HTTPS, everything to HTTPS, because they still had some projects on HTTP. They're migrating their backend to HTTPS to faster servers. But hey, today we all have space, so we shouldn't complain about, oh, this package is too big people forget that when you install that package from official repositories, binaries, you with all the dependencies combined, they're going to be equal to the same size of the Flatpak in the end. So why are they complaining? I don't get it. But
Yeah, I mean, it's a nature of Linux folks, man. Linux folks are always like, "Well, that's bloat." I think
yeah,
is
exactly,
the tagline. Bloat
exactly.
is the
So
enemy, which I love. You know, there's always like, I think the other day someone was like, "Oh, your DWM's 118 kilobytes." Well, I designed something using Odin that's only 65 lines of code. That's a window manager, and I was like, "Cool story."
yeah, it's all about the competition. I don't know.
Yeah, I love it.
Yesterday,
I love it.
yesterday we talked about is on the Linux Cast log. We talked about Linux FOSS and what's it called politics in FOSS. And by nature, somebody said by nature FOSS is political because it's all about opinions.
Yeah, so like when it comes to that, like I hate all politics. Just in general. Most people, especially today, I feel like go kind of down a rabbit hole when it comes to politics, and it seems like they get lost along the way. And I call it almost adult brain rot, essentially. And people are like, I
Yeah,
need to stay informed. And I'm like, yeah, but really, if you're not reading a book, you're not reading bills, you're not actually reading the words off a piece of paper. Most people are just going to their news source, and whatever opinion piece of the day is out is what they're going from. And you see this all the time in FOSS. You know, there's plenty of notorious people in FOSS that will just, get everybody riled up and then just
yeah,
say, hey, this is good, this is bad. And I'm like,
yeah,
guys, at the end of the day, I don't care what a person's political beliefs are. All I care is, does it work? Is it
exactly.
actually good? And that's the big thing. And I think too many people are like, well, it's inherently political. I'm just like, I can't deal with this crazy. I'm like, does it work? This is all I really care. That's at the end of the day. Because honestly, if I don't like that person and they create something awesome, I'll just fork it and then make it my own. Like
Ex-
a lot of people just get too caught up in it, in my opinion.
Yeah, same with XeroLinux. Like some people say, "Why would I pay for your distro? You're doing something wrong. You're breaking the GPL and whatever." When I send them the source code of the project, they shut up because
Yeah.
I tell them you're free to fork it and use it and modify it, do whatever you want with it. But they keep yelling just for the sake of
Yeah,
yelling.
I mean, I run into it these days. I mean, it's kind of funny. I really don't get too much in the Linux realm of things where people are really angry at all. A lot of times it's Windows users. With my Windows toolbox now is distributed. It's been downloaded over 10 million times. It has well over, I think, about 25,000 runs a day, and just a massive user base now. And occasionally I'll need to do an update, and that update sometimes flags antiviruses. So then I get a bunch of hate mail these days. Usually a handful a day where they're like, "You're trying to infect my system. I'm on to you, Titus." And I'm like, "Oh God, crazy."
Yeah,
So these days, all I'm dealing with is just crazy people that trust antivirus on Windows too much. Which, I don't want to go on too much of a tangent about Windows antivirus, but it's all about like heuristics and other things on how it does detection. And most people don't even understand that antivirus doesn't actually scan the file in the way they think it does. And
yeah,
they actually, it's all about, hey, what's the history? Has this person paid for an EV certification, which is about $400 a year? Did they submit this package to our repo and talk to somebody to get it flagged as not a virus? And essentially, whenever I do an update, instead of telling people I did an update, I literally just do the update. I submit it to all the antivirus companies. I wait for that to get the green light, and then I usually tell people, okay, there's an update. But occasionally, I'll still get the people just, hate antivirus. But um,
so
it's
so basically
it's one of those
so,
things.
so basically what you're saying is the people who want to download the exe are basically who have the exe are sort of out of date compared to the ones who run the command in terminal.
No, actually, both of them will still run into this problem because they're actually scanning the PowerShell script as it's run. So you can get
Oh.
flagged as malicious even when running the script, but you have to do a certain sign. There's something called sign tool
Mm.
in Windows where you can sign the scripts, and you use an EV certification signing, and then submit that back to GitHub. And it's kind of funny. I actually got another YouTuber that reached out to me and said, "Hey, are you using this tool to sign your packages? Because I think there's a little vulnerability." Shout out to Theo Joe, which hilarious. That guy doesn't usually get very much respect online because he started his whole content creation career doing joke videos. But he actually reached out to me. He's like, "Hey, I think you're using DigiCert tool for signing. And even though they say it's SHA-256, it's actually signing it under SHA-1, which is much
Oh.
less secure."
Oh.
And
Wow.
sure enough, I researched it, and he was right. So I was like, that's awesome. So I ended up switching over to just the sign tool from CLI, and forced the signing in 256. But it was wild that he knew exactly what was happening with some of the signing packages, and I was actually running a couple issues with with that lower grade encryption. It's not like a,
So
oh my gosh, but it was still kind of neat to have so many people look at packages.
yeah, this is another thing. That's why with XeroLinux, when I distribute XeroLinux, I give the people who donate to get access to the ISO. I give them a URL that points them to a folder that has the SHA-1, SHA-256, MD sum, and everything, so they can
Hmm.
verify if the ISO is correct. I never upload the ISO alone, but I
Hmm.
noticed that very few people download those files and verify. But
Yep.
I'm not getting any complaints. But it's always good to have them. But XeroLinux now has a demo version. uh, Someone mentioned it on my Discord. He was like, "Okay, you need to let people try XeroLinux." So I started wondering, how can I do that? How can you give access to people to a distro without giving them full access? Somebody mentioned, he was like, maybe it was you who mentioned. I think it was you. You mentioned, why don't you give the ISO without the installer?
Yeah.
So yeah, you were the one who mentioned it during one of your lives. I was like, genius idea. So
Yeah, it's kind of interesting, like when it comes to monetizing like your creation in Linux. It's probably one of the most difficult things to do. And like if you're a programmer out there, aspiring programmer, uh and you want to get paid for actually programming, or let's say assembling a Linux distribution, there's a lot of different ways and methods out there. I think RHEL obviously is the one that most people look to, but I would just say probably the most successful open source project I have ever seen in my life has been Quake, and how they distributed everything open source and then held back the art assets and essentially said, "Hey, you need to download the art assets, but everything else was open source." I think this is a brilliant way of keeping things open source, but also being able to distribute and get paid for your work. So when I look at id Software and what they did in history, you don't really see this ever, but I view that as the gold standard for open source, but also getting paid. And I know some people, especially in the Windows and even Mac realms, most programmers these days just say, Linux is just not worth it. It's impossible to support. You have many other things when it comes to most Linux users are cheap, or they want everything for free because that's just what they're accustomed to. But I think there's really good ways of doing it. For me personally, I when I'm trying to distribute like DWM Titus or Omitis. I
yeah.
still haven't made a name for it. I just think I was just joking around on stream this past week, but I don't think there's really any method of actually making money on that. I think it's more of a passion project for me. But I think right now I'm working on also a Linux book specifically tailored to desktop Linux users, where it'll show, hey, here's a proper way of doing like pipewire installation or converting and properly setting up networks using just Network Manager, or hey, these other tools might be interfacing or conflicting with Network Manager and setting that up properly. So I think from a learning standpoint, I'm trying to set up something like that where I open source the book online so you can read it online. But if you want like a physical copy, you could actually go buy it. And I think that's probably the best way to make money in Linux right now is education. And
True.
I feel like the book format is probably the only way I could make any money in Linux, which is kind of funny. But trying to like the Windows folks, it's much easier because you're just like, hey, here's all the source code, but if you want the binary, here's
Yeah.
here, you just pay me some money.
Yeah.
And
And
Windows people are like, yeah, I don't want to compile it myself. I'll just give you the money.
yeah,
So I was like, okay.
that's similar to what I'm doing with XeroLinux. You want the ISO, you pay money. But if
Hmm.
you don't want the ISO, you can grab the source code, build it,
Hmm.
and use it. So, but unfortunately, I don't provide a build script because in my mind, each person would want to build it differently because there's multiple ways to build a Linux distro. You got the squashfs method and you got the overlay method. So I'm
Hmm.
not going to force people to use each or. Uh,
Hmm.
I just tell them create your own build script, and here's the documentation how to, and you can build it and use it. But the reason I created the demo is because people, like you said, don't want to bother. So
Hmm.
the demo version, they just boot it, play around with it. It's got one or two features removed compared to the final ISO, but the rest of it is identical to the final ISO, except it doesn't have an installer. But someone did mention one thing during my live with DistroTube. They were like, "What if I DD it? Take the demo for free and DD it into my onto my hard drive." I was like, "Not unless you want to break your system because you're missing the bootloader." So
Yeah. I mean, it's kind of funny when it comes to the bootloaders too with Linux, like and Windows for this matter too. A lot of times I find I've been dual booting obviously a whole bunch lately, and I find anytime I boot into Windows, it is literally targeting some of my Linux EFI entries and deleting them. Which I was like, I know that's kind of always been a thing, but it seems like in recent bit, it feels like almost Windows is targeting it. So lately, I've been just running all my Windows instances through VMware or QEMU, and I was just like, man, that's kind of wild. But I've gotten really good at whether it's grub install, system deboot. Have you messed around with the new bootloader, new kid on the block,
Lemonade,
Limite, Lemonade?
lemonade,
Yeah.
lemonade.
Lemonade.
Uh,
Sorry, I'm terrible with English.
Lemonade.
It's all
I did, I did mess with it a little bit on in a VM, of course, not on my main
uh-huh.
system. I don't like it. I like Grub. I'm used to Grub. I like the way Grub is themed, and boy,
Hmm.
have you been using the same Grub theme for a long time. Uh,
Yeah.
that Grub theme was the very first Grub theme I ever used on XeroLinux for the first few 50 releases. But after that, I got bored and created my own. And my Grub theme says power in knowledge. Basically, it translates to power in knowledge because it's Arch. You need to read the
Yeah.
Arch wiki. But yeah, I've been using my own for a long time, but I do like the login screen you're using. What is
Oh yeah,
that
yeah,
with
yeah,
the
yeah. That's SDDM. And you can actually look in the AUR for that. That's the SDDM astronaut. No, astronaut theme. Sorry, it's still early. I haven't had enough caffeine, but I've been doing that, and they have like 7 different themes baked in, and that was the cyberpunk version
Oh,
of the astronaut theme from
I gotta check
SDDM.
that one. I gotta check that one
Yeah,
out because the
that
one
guy
I'm
did a
using,
lot of really good work.
the one I'm using was just the official one with a different wallpaper.
Oh.
But
So
speaking,
I got to ask this: have you tried? Because right now, the new kid on the block, everybody in Linux is talking about this, and I would love to talk to somebody about it. Omarchy, like, what is your opinion of old Omarchy? DHH's Omarchy is taking the world by storm. Everybody in Linux is talking about it. What's your
everybody,
take?
my take on it is it's an opinion. It's as he described it. He described it right on. It's an opinionated config. I don't like to call it a distro because he calls it a config. He just distributes it as a distro because to make it easier on folks.
Right.
But the included packages, I don't agree with because it's too one-sided. To me, it's too one-sided. It's developer only because this is how people are going to see it. The same way they see CachyOS as a single-purpose distro gaming. So the way I think of single-purpose distros is they shouldn't exist or not exist. Sorry, they shouldn't advertise themselves that way because that's false advertisement. Because on Linux you can take a gaming distro and turn it into a production distro because a gaming distro Linux can't be one thing. If you advertise a Linux distro as for gaming, people are gonna ask you, "What do you recommend?" You get this on your live streams a lot. What do you recommend for content creation? What do you recommend for gaming? What do you recommend? Just use Linux.
Yeah,
There's
man.
just
So true.
there's no one point. You can take a gaming distro and do whatever you want with it. But speaking of Omarchy, I like all the features it has. The menu that it has, it's the most user friendly menu I've ever seen on Hyperland. Like
Hmm.
because usually what they do is people who distribute Hyperland with their dot files,
Hmm.
you have to modify all the config files yourself, with the exception of the other guy. What's his name? My Linux for Work. My Linux for
Oh,
Work
yeah, yeah.
turned Hyperland into a desktop environment, basically,
Yeah.
because he created GUIs for everything.
Yeah, I think
But
Jay Coolit also did something similar.
and Quick Shell, not to
Hmm.
forget Quick Shell. They're turning Hyperland into a desktop environment, but Omarchy didn't do that. Omarchy stuck to what Hyperland is. He kept the power of Hyperland underneath, and he just created a menu that will allow you to configure various aspects of your desktop of your window manager. And the best part of Omarchy that I love most of all is he gives you easy access to remove the packages you don't like on your system. You just go to
Hmm.
applications, remove, and it opens a fuzzy finder of all the installed packages. Easy to remove. I like this approach. It's an amazing approach. The only thing I disagree with is all the included packages and the one-sided look into. I get it. In the end, he created it for himself and he's sharing it with the
Hmm.
world. That's what I did with XeroLinux. Except XeroLinux does not force anything on anyone. It's an empty system. They install whatever they
Hmm.
want later on. Except with Omarchy, it already has a lot of things that nobody cares about, like one
Yeah, I mean,
password.
it has like one password. You got Hey, you got Twitter hotkeys everywhere.
Yeah,
You know, there's a lot to it for sure. And I remember when I used it for a little bit there, I was just like, okay, that's cool. And Hyperland and what is your opinion of Wayland kind of going into this? Because Wayland Hyperland is the foundation of Omarchy with all the opinionated packages on top of it. Now, I'm kind of a Wayland hater here,
I
and I
know.
wanted to kind of get your what's your take on Wayland, XOR? Where are we going with this? Because I am kind of like rebelling against the common theme of just using Wayland with Hyperland, Sway, whatever Wayland you want to use, whether that's KDE, GNOME. I'm just like, to me, Wayland just doesn't. It's just not fully baked, and at least that's my opinion on it. So what is your thoughts?
My opinion on Wayland. My opinion on Wayland is very neutral because one second. Final. finally some light because it's getting dark outside. My opinion on Wayland is very neutral because I haven't used Xorg in a year. I've been using KDE on Wayland for a year, but there are some caveats to using Wayland. Drag and drop, you mentioned it on your live stream, is a nightmare. Some applications support it, some others don't. I don't think it's a Wayland issue. I think it's an application support issue. The developers have
It
to
is.
include support.
Yeah, because Xorg was kind of like opened up from a security standpoint to where it's much easier to do screen cap, it's easier to share, but at the same time, it also makes it less secure. Where Wayland, most people would say, is secure by default, and
Yeah.
I get it. I get it from that respect.
But when it comes to content creation, like I'm using Wayland right now, it's not a big deal. There's no caveats, there's no problems. But where the problems begin is when you use NVIDIA. When you are using NVIDIA and you have multiple monitors of various refresh rates, let's say 4 monitors. 3 monitors, no problem. But 4 monitors and above, which is becoming the norm these days, I have 4 monitors, but
That's insane.
yeah.
I literally work off of one monitor. I am literally a caveman.
My 4th monitor is just for for OBS preview, but and I'm on AMD, so I don't suffer this problem. But on NVIDIA, you're not going to see the desktop basically. And there's another problem on Wayland with GNOME. With GNOME, if you have 3 monitors, when you get the GDM does not support multiple monitors yet. And it's I dropped my mic.
Oh, you're good.
But the problem with GDM is if you have the 3 monitors, it's always going to be on the leftmost monitor. It's never going to be in the center. So if you have that monitor turned off, you're gonna suffer, and they haven't baked in support. So Wayland, it's still work in progress for me. It's
it's kind of
yet.
weird. I actually had a multi-monitor with 3 monitors for my laptop that I would take to work. And one thing I found was I actually enjoyed Wayland with the 3 monitor setup with Hyperland, which is funny because Hyperland's a different implementation than both KDE and GNOME for that. And I would say Hyperland is really intriguing to me on how it did its implementation because you can grab the serial numbers from the monitors. So when you go plug in whatever it is, you can specify exactly what you're looking for as far as refresh rates, positioning, all that, which is really kind of fun and cool. And in Xorg's defense, you could also do that with like Xorg config files. You could do xrandar scripts. But it's really,
what's it called? Vaxry forked Wayland. He forked Wayland, and he's using his own version of it, his own fork.
I think it's not Wayland that he forked. I think he forked WL Roots, which is what most other things are off of.
Correct.
Yeah.
So, and there's another problem for me. Even SDDM. I was making fun of GDM, but SDDM also, it doesn't have awareness. It's not pure Wayland yet. It's I don't know what it is right now. It's been because SDDM is not by the KDE devs. We shouldn't mix that up. It's not a KDE project. It's a project that was created by someone else that KDE took under their wing, but still he was working on it. Now there will be in, I think, Plasma 6.5, 6.6. We will have something called Plasma Login Manager. It's a fork of SDDM, but that they're working on. A major problem I have, 2 major problems I have with it. It's so far it's not monitor aware. Second problem is they have no plans to include biometric support. Like if you want to unlock with your fingerprint or your face, no support. They're not thinking about that. They don't care about that because only laptop people use this. We care about the desktop people. I'm like, no, you should think about others. No.
Now you
Uh,
did a fingerprint style thing using
yeah,
Fido. Tell me a little bit about that because
yeah.
I
The
think you got some stuff. Is that going to integrate with like a login manager? How are you utilizing that?
the fingerprint thing is a two-sided blade, basically, when it comes to login. I tested it on Cosmic before I tested it on KDE, although I'm a KDE guy, but at the time I was using Cosmic Beta. It works just fine. We use fingerprint fprint D, the package fprint D on Arch. Uh,
Okay.
so that's the back end. And what we modify for login is just etc pamd login. There's a login bash script in there. Uh, we modify that one for all other desktop environments or login managers except SDDM, because SDDM, being SDDM, uses its own binary, its own shell script. So for regular login managers, we just edit the login file, we add the necessary entries, and it works. On Cosmic, it works wonderfully. It's like the Cosmic developers thought about this since the get-go. Because on the login screen, you get a confirm button. You click the button, then you swipe your finger, you log in. No problems. When it comes to
Okay.
SDDM, since there is no support, I had to find a workaround. And who gave me the workaround? Hello, Claude GPT. Uh, it
It
gave
was kind
me.
of funny. Like last time I was trying Cosmic was Alpha 2, and I know Cosmic Greeter was in the very like its
Oh,
complete infancy. Like it was just born and it didn't work for crap.
yeah,
So I need to try out Cosmic again. I know Cosmic just hit its beta, and
yeah.
I haven't seen where Cosmic Greeter is gone. So that's really
Well,
interesting you say that.
yeah, and in my fingerprint toolkit, when it detects, it has an auto detection for SDDM. If SDDM is detected, it will activate a bulb icon that the user will click that will explain what they need to do. What you need to do on SDDM is hit enter on an empty password prompt. Don't type your password. Just hit enter on an empty password prompt. Then swipe your finger. It will log in.
Oh, okay.
It's a workaround. It's a hack, but we can't do anything beyond that. I just created the not me. I just created the GUI, but my friend Sensei, part of the XeroLinux team, he worked on the back end, but we just leveraged what we can use. So fprint D, it supports what it supports, and what's coming next is the Howdy face unlock. So we're working a lot on many projects to come on XeroLinux, but every project is harder than the next. So
Yeah,
right now,
yeah. I think the big thing is making everything cohesive. And one
yeah,
thing I've noticed happening on most distributions, especially in the Linux realm, and what I really hate, and kind of why I stopped really talking and making too many Linux videos, is because I've become like this niche of a niche in my Linux installs where uh, I've become the guy that uses as minimal packages as possible. You know, I like
yeah,
to have a very bare bones setup. And the big issue I have with almost every single Linux distribution out there is it just installs way too much crap. And I'm like, I just don't like it. And I always end up just stripping it out and doing DWM with a
yeah.
really, really simple setup. And every time
That's
I feel good, and that's what I'm where I'm at, and it's hard because not very many people are at that location. I'm trying to take what I have and simplifying it down for new people coming into the space so they can try out something like this, much like Omarchy did. But Omarchy's just so bloated with all the stuff that's added and using Wayland and all this extra packages that get installed that are just completely unnecessary. So that's my struggle, is making a very minimal setup that everyone can use, that's well documented, and also doesn't install everything in the kitchen sink.
how would you feel if I told you that the reason XeroLinux doesn't include so much stuff out of the box was inspired by you and your
Oh,
complaint,
nice.
this exact complaint.
Yeah.
So I was like, why ship a lot of stuff that people will spend hours uninstalling? Just ship nothing, just the basics, and let them go from there. That was
Yeah.
inspired by you, and the now the toolkit was not inspired by you, but we thought the same. We ended up with the same thing, and there's something I was thinking of doing for the upcoming release in December for XeroLinux when we finish the toolkit, is including a button that would install Omarchi on top of XeroLinux.
Yeah, so I actually have done a couple different installers with Linutil. So Linutil really is meant and tested for. I try to make it agnostic, meaning you can do Debian, you can do Arch, you can do a lot of even Fedora. So we have a lot of compatibility kind of baked into it. But the big thing I do with Linutil is I try to add a bunch of different installers. So we already have Omarchi in there. We have the JCoolit. I think we have
Oh, yeah.
ML4W as well, and a couple other installers for script installs. The problem I have is a lot of times people don't know what they don't know, kind of
Yeah,
thing, and
exactly.
they end up not understanding their system or not understanding just like the fundamentals of how a
They
Linux
click
distro is
buttons
constructed.
and they click buttons and they start and then break their system. Yeah, I got that
Yeah,
when I had my GUI toolkit in the early days. That was forked from CachyOS, which was forked from Manjaro, so it's a forkception. But I used to do that, and people started clicking buttons all over the place, and their system would break. And what the hell am I doing? Uh,
yeah.
but
And that's the main issue I have there. And I guess my solution to that was creating a book and just
yeah,
saying, here's what everything's in a Linux. Every Linux distribution has to have these things.
yeah,
Or, if they're omitted, this is what you have to do without those things in there. So I actually if you guys want to check it out before it's released, it's just thelinuxbook.com. And that right there is just meant to be a technical novel, but for Linux desktop users. And that's the thing I noticed in the space. Any Linux book I've ever picked up, it's always server first or business first type of written novel. And a lot of times there's so much fluff, and I hate
yeah,
fluff. I just want I just want to know, how the hell do you fix networking? How do you do this, especially from a
exactly.
desktop perspective? And that's when I was like, okay, well, while I do this, I'm going to actually just write it down, and then that way a normal person could do it. And I figure if I can let people know, hey, this is what we need, and this is what you need to know to use Linux in every single scenario. I feel like if they're more educated, they'll do well and be able to go past just a simple GNOME or KDE setup, and customize their system to exactly what they need. And that's what I hope to do, because I think I feel like when someone's just stuck on a base install, whether that's you started, I think it was about 30 minutes ago, you said a lot of new Linux users are always like, what distro to start with?
Yeah,
And in the past, everyone's like Linux Mint or Pop OS or whatever it might have been. Um, and to me, it's like, well, they have to be educated to really get the most out of it, I feel like. And
yeah.
also, just so they don't just run random scripts online and then break crap. So,
Which
I
brings
don't
me
know.
to a really important question. If you're thinking of paperbacking it, making it hard copy, uh,
Mhm.
are you the book you're writing? Is it general knowledge things that will not change very soon, or because a lot of Linux books that come out, they get outdated by the time they reach the shelves. So you're generalizing, making sure nothing gets outdated by the time it reaches the
You
shelf.
can't do that. You just can't. So here's the thing, and this is where most technical novels completely fail, is they just try to generalize. And the thing is, you can't, because any book written 5 years ago, they're going to talk about Pulse Audio and
Yeah.
ALSA and all these other things that, well, they're still kind of used, but Pipewire is really the foundation these days. And you don't know what the future holds. So what I
Exactly.
did in the book is I added in every single chapter at the very bottom at the footnote in a footer, I enabled a, hey, this was last edited at, and it shows the date. Because I think anything in Linux that's over 4 or 5 years old is dead knowledge at that point.
Yeah.
So I did that so you could, if you buy the paperback, you could see, okay, this is essentially 1 year out of date today. And you'll know exactly the date for when that knowledge was written. And then you kind of have a running total, or at least in the back of your mind, hey, this is a year old at this point. Did things change? And that's important to know, because that's not something I think anybody can control. And it's really important users know that knowledge in Linux moves fast, and it does change, and the fundamentals will even change, where in Windows and Mac, it's much more stagnant, and they do that from a stability, support, and reliability standpoint, where Linux configurations is so wildly different from one to the next, and Linux is only as stable as the user makes it. Exactly. And that's the big thing. If you're really good, you're never going to have a problem. Like my Arch install now is, we're going on almost 600 days without a wipe, which is a record for me in Arch Linux. But I say that because it just means, Chris of 4 or 5 years ago, when I was wiping Arch, well, one, Arch is a lot more stable and the devs have gotten better. But I would also say there's also an element of skill there, a skill issue, so to speak, where I would do stupid things, like maybe overuse the AUR and just have dependency hell and other things that can happen to new Linux users. And it's just, I think people need to recognize that and understand they fundamentally work a lot different than, let's say, Windows or Mac install.
What I was thinking about was, if you want, you can add to the paperback version of the book. If you want an up-to-date version, they go to the online version that you are going to be constantly updating as time goes by. So
so I actually, way ahead of you. That's why I did the online version. So as the knowledge changes, I can update the linuxbook.com, and then on top of that, all the links, I can link videos that I've made through YouTube in there. So like when I'm talking about Xorg versus Wayland, you can see a video of, here's what I think on this. And it's kind of funny, I actually had a Wayland Xorg video I made 5 years ago where I was like, Wayland's coming out, this is everything they're saying about it. And it was hilarious, because I think a comment in there from a month ago going, what has changed? And I replied to the comment and I was like, nothing. I mean, it was funny because it was one of the few times where I was like, it's so funny when it comes to Wayland, where more distros are shipping Wayland in 2025, but the knowledge I gave back in 2020 was actually, it's exactly in the same spot it was. All the weaknesses of Wayland from that point to today still exist. It was hilarious because it was one of the few things that never did change. Everyone always was like, well, it's almost there, it's just missing some program compatibility. It's almost there, except for NVIDIA doesn't work for crap on it unless you add these environmental variables, and depending on whatever environment you go into, there's certain workarounds,
modules and stuff.
And I was just like
that's like my dad. Lebanon is gonna get better. The situation's gonna get better. We've been saying that for the past 30 years. No, it's still the same. But I
know we can hope. I think maybe slowly, maybe. I don't know. I'm just like, I don't know. I've just kind of given up on it, where I'm just like, oh, screw it. I'm just gonna go back to Xorg. This just works for me. And I understand some people have moved to Wayland 100%, and I always tell folks, just use what works for you. Exactly. It's okay. That's the one thing I would say. Yeah. And the thing about Linux that people need to understand is it's not a one size fits all. It really
Exactly.
isn't, and you
That's
got to
why
make it what you want it to be.
that's why so many distros exist, because there's not a single shoe that fits everyone. Uh, that's how I like to see it. But there's no talking to you without talking a little bit of Windows.
Yeah.
I want to bring a subject that might hurt a lot of people, mainly you. Why do people still use Windows 7 today in 2025? Because I have a friend who still prefers to use Windows 7 over any other version of Windows, because his argument is, at least they gave we are on Windows 7, we are not attached with an umbilical cord to Microsoft. With Windows 7, it's the last Windows where we were free from Microsoft.
I hate this subject, but I just literally got a comment that popped up and like, hey, are you going to make WinUtil compatible with Windows 8.1 or 7? And I'm just like, guys, this has been out of end of life support for 5 years now, half a decade at this point. If you count extended life, extended warranty, that ended in 2023 for the businesses and hospitals and stuff that may
Yeah.
have paid for that. But it's so insecure. Like, I cannot emphasize how bad this is. From if you want to connect it online and check your bank and other things like that, the SMB protocol, I think Windows 7 died in 2017, 2018, because that's when the NSA tools got leaked to the internet. And when that happened, the file share protocol, SMB, that Windows 7 uses is extremely vulnerable. And so many vulnerabilities have come out since it's gone end of life that you're essentially, just for lack
Inviting
of better
trouble.
words, and this is, yeah, it's like, I hate to use this analogy, but I'm gonna, and I apologize for anybody that hears this, but it's like going into a whorehouse without a condom. It's just not a good idea. You're
Granted,
just inviting a lot of problems, and um, yeah, I can't understand the user that says Windows 7 or Windows 8 is okay. At
well,
this point in time, you're going to have better compatibility with Linux. You're going to have an easier time with Linux. You're going to be able to get updates with Linux. Switch to Linux. If you
yeah.
if you are that person out there, I doubt they're watching this stream, but I couldn't imagine not using Linux in that scenario, because honestly, the gamers that would say, "Oh, I'm using Windows 7 because it's more performant," that's no longer true. Most
No.
games just won't even play on Windows 7 where they will on Linux. So, from a compatibility standpoint, Linux is better. From a
Yeah.
security standpoint, Linux is better. So, I really don't understand the
Right.
people using
Here's
these older
another.
systems.
He's
It's
another
just a skill
argument.
issue.
No, it's not a skill issue. He's another argument that he told me about, and I do agree with that. Is the if you know what you are doing and you don't visit insecure websites or piracy websites or any bad places, and you control yourself while using Windows 7, because it's the final Windows that doesn't have an umbilical cord connected to Microsoft all the time, that listens to you, that forces Copilot, although
I get it, but this person's fundamentally, they're stupid. I'm sorry. I literally, I'll double down here real fast, because I will say a script kiddie can take advantage of that person just following websites. If they connect it to the internet, I guarantee you a script kiddie could install Kali Linux, let's say, pull up the burp suite, pull up Metasploit, and they're going to be able to hack that Windows 7 user using known vulnerabilities that exist today that will never be patched. And that's what that person's inviting. So, that's where I'm just like, no, there is no scenario, there's no world where Windows 7 makes sense. I can't imagine someone staying on Windows 7. Again, it's just a skill issue, it's a knowledge issue, it's a support issue maybe, where let's say you're a business and you just don't want to pay anybody to upgrade your systems from that archaic Windows 7 POS. Sure, I still see it occasionally out in the wild, but I always just shake my head and go, those cheap bastards that don't want to pay someone to fix this. And that's where I there is no use case for it, in my opinion. It's
Yeah.
more of a, hey, we can't afford to. That's the only scenario where I go, I get it, where
Yeah.
they can just say, we just don't have the money for this,
Well,
and we can't pay a support engineer to install Linux and convert these things. I get that.
Case in point, Lebanon. Lebanon, they have ATM machines that are still on Windows XP. Yeah, Lebanon is a third world country. Financial situation is bad, so I agree with that. But my good friend, my best friend, refuses because he installed Windows 10, and he used the WinUtil to deploy it, of course, because he's talking to me, a good friend of Chris Titus. So of course he's going to use the WinUtil, but the reason he still prefers to use Windows 7, because he's not a young person. He knows what he's doing, and the only thing he's doing is playing old games. And here's another reason he's doing it. Yeah, I just remembered SLI support, because on Windows 10, if you have SLI, the driver no longer lets you benefit from SLI. He's still on two 1080 Ti's. So Windows 7, for whatever reason, NVIDIA only allows you to benefit from SLI on Windows 7. When you go to Windows 10, I think they expect you to no longer be using SLI by the time you are using Windows 10. So
relic of a yesteryear for sure.
That's another reason he has no choice but to use Windows 7, because he wants to benefit from SLI support. Like everything is forcing him to stick to Windows 7. His use case requires that he has SLI. So
I don't know. In my opinion, I would just sell those two 1080 Ti's, get some money for them, upgrade to a more modern card.
Except we don't live in America.
I know. I just odd. As much as it warms my heart to hear SLI again, and I'm like, oh man, I remember all those setups with that little janky ribbon cable going between the cards. But yeah, I cannot imagine.
Technology.
I cannot imagine opening myself up to so many security vulnerabilities.
Well, so
just
far,
to
knock
have
on
Windows
wood.
7 and SLI is so weird. Like, what's his use case? He's playing old games. What's he need two 1080 Ti's in SLI support for?
I'll give you another thing. He plays games that require a 32-bit physics, which is no longer supported on Windows 10.
But you can probably emulate that in Linux using Wine or Proton. You know,
he's moving slowly to Linux. Slowly. He doesn't want to go all in because he's got 12 computers at home. Slowly.
Right.
For Windows 7, it's like Windows 10 is forcing his hand by its destruction of all the stuff that he relies on. The other reason he relies on SLI for is After Effects, because with After Effects, he can use one GPU for doing one thing, another GPU for another thing. So there's a lot of technologies, modern technology today, because in our current economical situation, nobody can afford shit. So he's still using.
I get it. Yeah.
He's still using X99. He's still on X99.
Yeah. No. I mean, I forced myself to get off Adobe. I can't support or use anything in Adobe, and I'm sure most people is just pirating using the whatever.
It's not piracy. It's a company account that he's using. He's not pirating anything. But there's no alternative for After Effects on Linux. There's no actual alternative for After Effects on Linux. That's the unfortunate thing. So
no. I get that, and I mean, I actually have a MacBook that I use like FCP, and then I also use well, there's Motion over there, and then I also use Affinity for a lot of my edits sometimes. But when I'm on Linux, I still like to do my thumbnails in Linux, and I use GIMP, and I even did a live stream where I did
Affinity.
a lot of the script foo. Yeah, oh, it was nasty, but I got there in the end.
Yeah.
And that's kind of where I'm at. I just God, man, I have a hard time ever accepting that anyone should be on Windows 7
Well,
in
like I
2025. I
portrayed,
just
there are some use cases, niche as they are. There are some
God,
use cases, unfortunately,
I
with
hate
the
it to
modern
death.
technology.
I just do. I just oof. I get it. But I understand, but I still got to make fun of it. I got to shake my head. It's
Well,
just
he tried.
disappointing.
You cannot blame him. He tried Windows 10 because uh, people should know that Windows 7, I mean, Steam no longer supports Windows 7. If you're a gamer,
Right.
yeah, and still using Windows 7, you can't install Steam. But if you've had Steam installed prior to them killing it, you can still use it with some games, as long as you don't uninstall it and try to reinstall it, because the installer now will completely block you from installing it on Windows 7. Because Windows 7
Yeah, I mean, for this user in particular, um, now obviously more off the record here, I would probably opt for like a 2021 LTSC type setup that would be a little bit more stripped down than your modified version. So it'd be very close to a Windows 7. And then with a more minimal setup like that, that wouldn't have an aggressive update schedule and wouldn't be at the mercy of like the Microsoft Store and other things like that with LTSC.
yeah.
You could probably do all these things and then keep support and security at a relatively high level. And if I was in, let's say, a third world country with not much money, I'd have to take a trip to the old mass grave, if you know what I'm saying. And I think
Yeah.
that would also be my solution for this specific user that needs those
And
capabilities. Except that still doesn't fix your SLI problem, which on the
exactly.
SLI side of things, I still don't know if there's a use case for SLI, especially with modern
No,
Adobe
not
type
anymore.
products. If he's using a subscription, I don't think SLI is even used in modern day
No,
Adobe.
no.
So you could still utilize two GPUs, but not in an SLI format.
Yeah,
Um,
but there's another thing. The LTS. There's another problem, inherent problem. He's an iOS user. Has been
okay.
since the iPhone, the first iPhone. He has never
hmm
used Android. So on Windows 7, he can no longer use iTunes because iTunes was dropped like 2-3 years ago. Now there's two
Yeah.
applications. They split it into two applications, one called Apple Devices and one called Apple Music. You can install them only from the Microsoft Store. That's
Yeah.
one. Another thing is Lebanon is blocked from the Microsoft Store. Lebanon, you open the Microsoft Store, you will only get open link. You are never going to
hmm
get download button. So there is a bypass. Everybody knows it. It's called AdGuard. You just paste the link to the application you want. You download the MSX bundle, and you install it like any executable, and it will be installed. But now in Lebanon, we have to go through hoops just to install applications that we need. So what the hell, Microsoft? Why the region lock?
Yeah. Uh, and honestly, I'm kind of running the same thing. As much as I also deal with Mac as well. I do use all three on a weekly basis. Mac has the same kind of enshittification of Microsoft as of late with a lot of the design decisions, specifically iOS 26 is particularly bad, I think. Some
Yeah.
people like it, but I'm just like, this is wild. And I don't know. I I look at Linux and I say most people don't use Linux just because it's intimidating, but at the same time, I feel like Linux is going to be the only option for folks going forward, and the advocation of it will come from fed up users of Microsoft and Apple. I think
iOS
those are the big proponents.
iOS 26. The only reason I use it is because of the clear glass. I don't know if you remember
Oh,
do you remember in the jailbreak days a theme called Glassclart?
Uh-huh.
It was exactly that.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, I
now
had
that
a
Apple,
iPhone 3G back in the day with the jailbroke, with the Cydia, and all the those types of apps, and
yeah, I didn't
it
like
was
the
cool back
jailbreak.
then.
I didn't like the jailbreak, but I liked the icon pack. That's the only reason I jailbroke last time. But now that Apple brought it natively to the iPhone, I'm so happy. But the problem is
Yeah.
they what happened to Apple? This is something I don't understand. They took consistency, threw it out the window because their iOS is as far as from consistency as I am from Kilimanjaro, Mount Kilimanjaro. What the hell happened to consistency? What
Yeah,
happened?
well, I would say it's consistently with the round edges. I think I saw a screenshot the other day where they're like, "Do you like round edges on your round edges?" And it was a screenshot of a window with round edges with the it was rounded on the corner, but then there was another round on the title bar, and you could see the gap in between, and then you had the round buttons on top of that, and
The
it's like
Apple
the
is
inception of roundness. I was
yeah.
hilarious. I was dying. I was dying on it. It was hilarious.
Speaking of roundness, with Plasma 6.5, they rounded the corners of all windows.
Yeah, cool. Nah.
But to finish
This
out
is why
this,
I'm using Xorg. I'm literally old man yelling at clouds over here. I'm just like, I just want a fast, simple. Just I don't need super big gaps. I don't need a whole bunch of rounded corners everywhere. I don't need a bunch of opacity. I mean, come on now. I'm
yeah,
not some
it's all
hippie
about the blur these
smoking weed in
days.
the middle of a field somewhere. I just want my system to work, and I want it to work well. And I
And you
I
did
like my square windows.
and you did a great job with DWM, I must say. But to finish this collab out, I want to
Yeah.
go out with a bang.
Okay.
Since we're talking Windows and Linux with a bit Mac splintered on, but do you do you think the growth of Linux will be attributed to Microsoft's failures recently, or do you think that it is what it is, people will use whatever?
It will be a lot of people moving from I would say both Mac and Windows to Linux. I don't think Linux is very appealing on its own, having been here, because every person I talk to that uses Linux typically has a war story about how Microsoft pissed them off. And that's really it. Like for me, it was Windows 10 in their update cycle. I was like, that's ridiculous. I think I had a laptop update on it like an inopportune time, and it forced an update where I just was like, oh crap, I forgot to put active hours or something on. And I was just like, this is silly. And I think that trend will continue, and it's only gotten more and more egregious over the years, and it's been this ever ending, hey, Microsoft just keeps shooting itself in the foot, or probably
Mm.
the leg at this point, with forcing online accounts as in the dev channel right now. um, and I think that that's just going to be the thing that really promotes Linux the most. I think Linux is the biggest advocator for it, whether they want it or not, is Microsoft. And I think that has always been the case. And I think it'll continue being the case, if not more so, in the future.
My opinion is a little bit different. My opinion is people will stick to what they're on, not jump to Windows 11. If they're using Windows 7 or they're Windows 10, whatever Windows they're on, and they see Windows 11 being the enshittification of things, they might stick to what they are on because they don't want to bother. And others might switch to Apple because they have an Apple device at home. A member of the family might have an Apple device at home, a laptop or a Mac Studio or whatever. They're going to switch to that because it's available. It's readily available and they don't have to pay extra. But no one, in my opinion, will spend money building a new system that is specifically compatible with Windows 11 and put up with Windows 11's shenanigans. but they're gonna in my area, I know, at least in Lebanon, I know they're gonna stick to whatever. There are people who are still on Windows XP. Like a year ago, before I closed the shop, somebody came to my store with a laptop, a Toshiba laptop they got for like $250. Rip Toshiba. But they came with a Toshiba laptop, you know, those thick ones with like a few, like a dozen different ports on it.
Oh yeah.
It was a 17-inch laptop. I opened it up. It was like I don't have audio. When I logged in, it was Windows 8.1. It was Windows 8.1. I'm like, what are you doing with this Windows still? I don't. My son gave it to me 5 years ago, and I'm still using it. I just need my sound back. So in my area, at least, I know people are going to stick to what they know best. They're not going to move.
I think all of us are right here. I think honestly both are very valid, and I think we're going to see a little bit of all of what was just said. Whether it was me, I think a small subset will be Linux. I think you probably are right with the majority of people just saying, screw it, I'm not going to upgrade.
Yeah,
but it just depends on the user.
It depends on the user. To me, the end of 10's mission, the website's mission, or the whoever created its mission, is valiant to push people to Linux. But in my opinion, it's gonna fall mostly on deaf ears. It's going to get a few niche people, like you said, but the majority of the people will stick to what they know and love, because especially in third world countries, they have old hardware. That's not going to support Windows 11 anyway.
It's the same here as well. Like, I mean, that's not unique to just third world countries. I think a lot of people will just continue doing that. And we also didn't even touch really on the death of the desktop, really. I mean, a lot of people that are using computers nowadays only use them, at least here in the States, they're using them just purely for business. And then everything else is just kind of like, you know.
Yeah.
A lot of people have moved to just using cell phones, and I'm like, gross. But I know I'm the minority here.
On my end, I heard a lot of people ditching desktops and switching to a lot of gamers switching from desktops to consoles because of the whole enshittification of things. They'd rather switch to a console, and they go that route.
I hate that.
And
but you're not wrong.
Good news. At least in Lebanon, the Steam Deck started growing in popularity.
That's good. Yeah.
They don't know what is running underneath. You tell them, what is it running? They tell you, I don't know. I know my games. What is it running underneath?
It works.
I don't know. But it works.
Yeah, I think that's awesome. I think that's awesome. I love the Steam Deck. I'm so glad that ended up being a success.
I will show you my Steam Deck. It's right here. But I want to show you what it has on it. If it has battery. I haven't charged it in like a year. Do you think it has battery? Hello? Are you on?
Probably not. I leave mine almost plugged in constantly on a dock.
Hello? No, it had 100%. Come on.
Okay.
Come on. Am I pressing the power button? Oh, okay. The battery died. But I don't have SteamOS on it. I wiped it. I don't care for AAA games on a handheld. Yeah. If I can play the AAA game on my computer at 150 FPS, why do I have to succumb to 30 FPS? So what I did was I flashed Batocera on it, and Batocera, and I have like a lot of games. There you go.
There we go. Yep.
Yeah, Batocera on it. It doesn't have SteamOS. And there's an update. We have an update of this month. But yeah.
So what is it? Batocera?
Batocera, yeah. Batocera.org, I think, or .dev. I don't remember what it is.
.org.
No,
Linux.
Batocera.linux, yeah.
Yeah.
It supports the Raspberry Pis. It began on a Raspberry Pi, and now it reached the Steam Deck. And I got a lot of games on it. Yeah.
Now, I was using EmuDeck for a while, but I know they got kind of in trouble. EmuDeck started ripping out a lot of Nintendo stuff. I think the last time I installed it.
I don't have any.
Just the past week.
Yeah, I don't have Nintendo stuff on this. I just have the consoles I know. and I have played before, but I got around how many games? All. Where is all? I have a guide on my website that will guide you on how to install Battlesera on the Steam Deck.
It's cool. Yeah, no, I just pulled them up. I was like, that's neat. I've never actually tried them out. I'm not too big. I mean, usually I'm just sticking with stock Steam OS, but I've done like Bazite. I've done other spins of it. I think Chimera for a little bit there.
Yeah, 5,000 games on this
Yeah.
little thing. So
Yeah, I love the retro gaming scene with retro achievements and other stuff where you get kind of all your fixings offline, and if you're a retro gamer out there, I mean, it's just amazing.
Yeah, this for me. The Steam Deck was built for retro gaming and indie games. Indie games run flawless on this thing. Like recently, I tried before I tried it on an external hard drive, not to wipe Battlesera, but I tried Silksong.
Oh yeah.
Silksong on this runs at 100 plus FPS.
Yeah.
On my system, it runs at 1500 FPS, but I had to cap it not to destroy my GPU. But it runs at 1500 FPS. But here it runs flawless at 100 FPS. So I enjoy retro games and indie games on this, and that's what it was built for. To me, this is where it shines. When you want to play AAA games, it's like asking a Picanto to beat a Ferrari. So I'm like, no, that's never gonna happen. So
yeah, I usually do like a Moonlight type of game streaming if I'm going to play like something bleeding edge, but I really don't play anything that's just come out that needs that. And like when it comes to like Silksong, they're on GOG now and other things. So
guess what's on GOG now? Guess what's on GOG? All 3 Crysis games.
Oh, okay.
All the modern Tomb Raider games. And Silent Hill F.
Yeah, see, I love GOG. I think that's great. I know a lot of people, especially in the Linux realm, just love Steam to death, but I worry about the day where like Gabe passes away. He's an old man now, and he's not in the best shape of his life. And I'm like, what happens when a big corporation comes in and takes Steam over? And what happens to all that DRM games that we have locked in on that thing? So GOG to me... Yeah, exactly. It's only a matter of time before that happens, and I know people don't like hearing that. But that's why I also like trying to build up my GOG library and having offline games and DRM free games. I think it's still an important thing, and I love, frankly, when it comes to retro gaming, I'm like, I love the fact that it's completely offline, and when I am online, I'm using just retro achievements, which is open platform for tracking achievements, and it's just a fun like gamification of the retro scene without having this monthly fee or a DRM attached to it. And like, I think that's just one of the best things ever.
GOG, what I love about GOG is due to the existence of Wine, we can download a GOG game, use a heroic game launcher or whatever, install the game, and play the game on Linux. DRM free, no anti-cheat. No, you're not going to find multiplayer games on GOG, but for single player games, DRM free, no enshittification, and their classic game preservation program is one of my favorites because they just released Doom, the old Doom, with all the mods, with a single install. A single install, because they have a new system now that allows you to download modded games, pre-modded. You just install them, all the mods are included, you just have to activate them within the game. So GOG, please don't die. Please don't die, because of you, my childhood is preserved.
Well, I think we're good. I think it's backed by CD Projekt Red, and the last game they put out was Cyberpunk, and I think that did quite well for them. So I think they're doing all right. I have hope for the future.
And the developers of Cyberpunk are working on a new game that's going to be released in 2027. So Steam, I don't buy anything on Steam anymore. I gave up like 2 years ago. My last game was Diablo 4, and I'm waiting for Diablo 5. Blizzard, give me Diablo 5. But Diablo 4, please don't remind me of Diablo 4.
I used to be
ladies
such a.
were
I was a
way
big
too
Diablo
much in
2
there.
guy.
Diablo
And I
2,
just
the
like,
remastered
man.
version. Did you play the remastered version?
Oh yeah, of course. Yeah, I've played the living hell out of that. But I look at modern day Blizzard and I'm just like, I have no
Yeah,
hope for that. That's
I
something I'm just like, well,
I
it's a
agree.
lost cause. I'm done. I
Even
haven't
the
bought any of the expansion packs for Diablo 4. I bought it on release and I played it and I was like, this is a soulless
100%.
game where they just had a checklist and they just said, okay, check, push it
Bye
out the
bye.
door,
Yeah,
deuces.
I don't
Just
hear a lot of people playing Diablo 4 these days. More people are playing Path of Exile 2
yeah.
these days.
Path of Exile, you know, they're definitely Grinding Gear Games has done a great job with that. And yeah, Path of Exile 2 is coming out. That'll probably be for those that love the ARPG realm. They'll probably
I do.
transition to that type of thing. Yeah, I do love. I love some RPGs as well. So yeah, no, I get it.
By the way, I'm gonna link you to before we end. I'm gonna link you to the GameScope tag generator that a friend of mine, a friend of the project created. It's on. It's a GitHub page right now, but
Oh,
soon it will
cool.
be a tool. I'm gonna send it your way. Maybe you can make a video about it, but it doesn't
Yeah.
matter. It helps people because GameScope is not very straightforward to use for gamers.
No.
Yeah, to find the flags, you have to type it in terminal. You have to figure out what is what. This GUI is simple. It's explained. So it's gonna have a tool in XeroLinux when it comes
Cool.
out in December. But I can send you the link. But other than that, thank you so much for being so awesome to be my guest today. It's my first episode back having collabs. It's been a while. So I'm still getting my grips with OBS again. But
well, I appreciate you having me on, man. It was good talking to somebody.
Yeah, and I sent you saw I don't know if you saw the rate mirrors commands I sent you on Discord yesterday.
Oh yeah, I did. Yeah, that was good.
This is rate mirrors is amazing. It's an amazing tool. There's a lot of tools on the AUR that people didn't discover yet. But if you have any questions about any tools, you can come to me because I've been around the block. But congrats!
Appreciate it, man.
Congrats on the 500 plus days on Arch. See, people, even a person who knows nothing but breaking systems, he didn't even manage to break Arch.
That's right.
See?
Well, I did break it a couple times, and then I just did time shift, but I still am on it.
Yeah. So
we'll fix it.
Arch is not as scary as it used to be, especially with
True.
Arch install today. So Arch install is an amazing script. It makes it so straightforward. It still needs to be ironed out, but it's easy, relatively easy to use. But yeah, jump on Arch, and if you want to try XeroLinux, there's a demo out there. You can try. It's free of charge, and if you like it and you want to support the project, you can donate to get the final ISO. And with that, where can they find you, sir?
ChrisTitus.com is probably my website that I use all the time. ChrisTitus Tech, both on Twitch and YouTube.
And I will see you on your next stream. What is it going to be this time?
We'll see. It's probably going to be both Linux and Windows. I know. I always like it's going to be Windows today, and then it ends up being Linux, and then I'm like, it's going to be Linux today, and then it ends up being Windows. So I'm just like, all right.
You got to satisfy everyone because yesterday on the live stream, I noticed someone yelling and screaming in the chat, "Where is Linux?
Linux Day." Yeah, I was like, it's there. I'm on Linux, but we're in a Windows VM.
By the way, I'll ask you after the stream. All right, guys, thank you for watching, and I'll catch you on a live stream once I'm settled in Serbia. Peace out.
All right. Later, all.